Hello, Canada. Today I want to speak not only as a Black Canadian, but as a human being. And many call anti Black racism in Canada a myth or one's imagination. But really and truly, it's a sickness that has infected every sector of life in this country. Anti Black racism. It's not just a word, it's not a myth, it's actually a harsh reality, one that many refuse to acknowledge or confront, not because it doesn't exist, but because they fear the consequences of naming it and confessing that anti Black racism does exist here in Canada. Some of you stay silent about anti Black racism because you're scared to say it out loud in a room, while some others fear calling it out because they fear reprisal. Another, and the harshest truth of all about why some people stay silent about Canadian anti Black racism is because some people actually embraced it and they want it to stay that way in Canada. And I want to say something that's also very important. Saying you have Black friends doesn't mean you're free from participating in anti Black racism. Having Black friends only matters if you're the type of friend who's willing to acknowledge and speak the truth that racism is very real in Canada, that many Canadians are in fact racist, and that you won't feel offended or defensive when Black people stand up and speak about anti Black racism in Canada. If you really care about your Black friends, you'll listen, you'll support, and use your voice and not hide behind having a Black friendship as a shield. Some of the worst racism in Canada comes from the very people we're supposed to trust, like the government officials, police officers, teachers, principals. Look at what nasty comments that you see on social media when someone posts about anti Black racism. That's when the real hatred starts to pour out real quick and loud. I want to mention some tragedies that took place right here in Canada that has nothing to do with Black Canadians. For example, that Montreal massacre in 1989 or the La Loche school shooting. Them incidents shocked the whole nation of Canada, but so many Black lives lost in police encounters go very unnoticed. Since the year 2000, over 700 people have died during encounters with Canadian police, and all 700 of those people are Black, and more than 460 out of the 700 Black Canadians that were unalived by by law enforcement officers. 460 of those in the 700 had mental health issues. And yet, the Canadian Human Rights Commission has spent over $100,000 in a class action lawsuit to fight in court to make sure that anti Black racism perpetuates. Money that could have gone to support healing or prevention or to find a solution for mental health and mental health illness in Canada. So, my question is, how long does Canada continue to remain silent? The same way that this country has addressed anti Semitism, the LGBTQ rights, and indigenous injustices, Black Canadians also deserve real recognition and real protection. As I speak, there's no law in Canada that specifically protects Black people from racism. No, not one. And that needs to change. Canada, they don't make the news the way the United States of America does in terms of racism and what have you, but it doesn't mean that Canada is any better. Racism here is quiet, but let me tell you, it's just as deadly. And yeah, too many Black Canadians have been worn down into silence. But if those of you who want racism to continue are loud in your silence, then we need to be even louder in our truth. The infamous Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in his own words, the law can't change a man's heart, but it can restrain the heartless. But racism, particularly anti-Black racism, it doesn't just damage the lives of the people it targets. It weakens the entire society. It divides communities, and it definitely poisons justice. And trust, it corrodes trust, and it leaves the entire nation broken. Black people face racism in every walk of life in this country, on the job, in the healthcare system, in education, and perhaps most painfully in the justice system, where being Black too often becomes a death sentence in this country. Black people in Canada are stereotyped. You look at us as people unfit to parent, unworthy of humanity, and undeserving of safety and dignity. That's not equality. That ain't justice. You know what that's called? Institutionalized hate. And make no mistake that them Black youths are dying in Canada. They're unarmed, unheard, and they're unprotected. In province after province, the statistics show that the majority of young people killed by police in this country are Black youths. And many of them youths were doing nothing more threatening than simply existing in Black skin. It's so normalized. Anti-Black racism is so normalized in this country and so unchecked that even many Black Canadians have been conditioned in their mind to really believe it's simply the way it is. We're expected to accept the degradation of our people as part of Canadian life, and that ain't okay. Some of the most lethal racism comes not from strangers, but people who are entrusted with power and authority. Okay? And when American racism makes headlines, Canada stays comfortably hidden, quietly inflicting the same harm. In fact, anti-Black racism runs through more than 50% of Canadian systems and institutions, from policing to politics, education, and economics. And Black Canadians have become complicit because when you're beaten down for generations after generations, some people actually begin to believe that they deserve to stay on their knees. But my last question here today is this. This is my question. If those who hate us are loudly silent, why can't we be proudly loud? Why can't we clap back louder with truth, with unity, and with legislation? Again, I quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, the law cannot make a man love me, but it can restrain him from lynching me. So today, I'm asking any sensible Canadian who can make sense of what I've just shared with you, sign the petition today. You don't know. Sign the petition and demand laws and demand the change. All those who are non-black watching this video, if you say, I have black friends and so is black, then support those very same friends, because anti-black racism doesn't just affect the poor black people or the single black mothers or the thug black youth. It affects each and every one of us, because no black Canadian is exempt from anti-black racism in this country. You know when anti-black racism will end? It will end when we says it ends loud, proud, and united. Thanks for listening.